Hey, welcome back. Justus here.
Joe Broom.
We're the Mystic and the Mechanic. And first video we talked about flipping the lid. And today we're coming back to talk about what do you do when you're flipping your lid, how do you notice that you're flipping your lid, and a plan for how to handle that crisis situation.
Yeah, just a little review on what flipping your lid is. This is the model made popular by Dan Siegel, Jane Nelson from Positive Discipline, and others to explain how the brain works when there's a threat. And information travels up through the base of the skull, and it gets interpreted for threat. And if it interprets threat, it doesn't care if it's a lion chasing you or rejection from a friend. We flip our lid. And basically, we're reminded of things in the past that were upsetting to us, and our brain starts to respond in this sort of way where we lose all of our most human capacities like compassion, reasoning, flexibility, things that will allow us to solve a problem in a new and productive way.
And so an important aspect to this for me is this is how we're all wired. And it's really important for us to recognize that this is happening. And when you flip your lid, you're cut off from your prefrontal cortex, which is kind of curving around down here and connecting to all the different parts of the brain and doing a lot of the executive functioning, managing the complexity of experience. And so when your lid's flipped, you don't have any complexity. You have black and white thinking. I gotta solve this right now, and I gotta blame somebody, either myself or someone else. Then we're gonna have all the memories that feel the same as the current situation. So for more on flipping the lid, watch the other video. We're gonna explain it today in terms of something you might recognize here. Got a little stoplight, amazingly drawn, of course. But you wanna start to notice, how do you feel physically when you're in the green, when you're feeling good? What do you notice emotionally? How do you think? What thoughts do you notice? And kind of as stresses add up throughout your day, like, hey, you're stuck in traffic, or you've got a bad call from someone that you love. And you know what Joe's talking about, that moment when you flip your lid, you're going to be in the red up here.
Yeah, it really is I like to talk about the 2-liter bottle of pop, of soda pop, and how life can kind of shake us, and if we don't release some of the pressure, it just sort of keeps building until so much pressure gets in there and it sprays out of the top, and that's when we really lose it, and we have ruptures in our relationships with the people that we care about the most. So that's really the red zone. That's another way of thinking about it.
And that's where we want to have a plan. We want to have a shared idea of how this happens to all of us. How does it look like for you? What are you feeling in your body? What are you noticing emotionally? What are you thinking?
And a good way to do this is to think about the last time this has happened to you, because some of us flip our lid frequently, some of us not so frequently, but most of us can remember a time in the not too distant past where we were pretty triggered by something and got upset. And so to recount, how did I feel? Even thinking about it can actually bring that same emotional state back up in you if you look for it.
Right. And so this is all data, and this is all practice. This is already happening. You're already working on it. You already have things that you usually do that don't work and things that you usually do that do work. And what we're talking about today is if we can notice physically, emotionally, mentally, what's happened for us when we're about to flip our lid and when we are in the red, then we can have a plan of reporting, my lid is flipped. I'm noticing these thoughts, always and never, blaming, coming up with solutions, being defensive. These are all patterns that our other option here is our plan. We really would like to give ourselves a few choices and kind of figuring out what are your choices, helping your kids figure out what are their choices, helping your partner figure out what their choices are. But we talked about stuff like the positive timeout.
Yeah, and the positive timeout is a term made popular by the Positive Discipline Parenting series, but it's applicable to anybody. the positive timeout is basically the belief, the thinking behind it is that we really can't accomplish much when we're triggered. In fact, the neuroscience is pretty clear on this, that we need our entire brain functioning to learn, especially the prefrontal cortex, which is the part that goes offline when we flip our lid. So nothing's going to happen that's probably productive. It's going to be just rehashing the same old pattern behavior until we get ourselves calm. So what's the best way to do that? Take a time out, or a positive time out, as they say in the positive discipline world.
And so you're removing yourself so that you can feel better and try again later. It's going to be easier for one partner, usually guys, to leave. If you're the partner that leaves, you want to report to your spouse. That's why you want to watch these videos together. And you want to say, hey, this is the thing that's happening. I kind of recognize it now, and I'm going to do my plan. I'm going to choose taking a positive timeout or getting space, and I've been wanting to mow the yard. So I'm going to go out and mow the yard for 20 minutes, and then let's come back and talk about this. And that bit of a check-in and recognition, plus the plan of when you are going to deal with this situation, is going to help the other partner who may otherwise feel abandoned or left.
Yeah, having this stuff already planned out in advance in your back pocket is incredibly helpful, because when we're triggered, we lose the ability to come up with new creative ideas.
Right.
So definitely want to be thinking about this in advance, watching this with your partner, or if you're having some struggles with your children and parenting, watching this together and saying, we're going to figure this out together, and coming up with this plan. That alone can be so empowering.
Yeah, and you can draw on resources that you already have too. I love when I have this conversation and then I go, oh yeah, they've been living together and doing this work for 15, 20, 30 years already, right? So what's your stuff? What do you already have figured out that works for you? You know, for me, the going through the doorway, and you know how you forget stuff sometimes when you go through the doorway? I go through the doorway into my yard and I'm like, oh, okay, I think I might make it, you know? And what are the other things that work for you? Do you want to, you know, do a solid for your partner that likes to keep attention and stay in contact, and you want to say, you know what, I don't want to talk right now, but we could watch this show that we're going to watch together, and I'll sit next to you on the couch. And so you're going to be kind of working with other people and kind of taking this case by case to try and find what's going to work here in this moment, you know? Do we need to just go to bed because it's 1 a.m., you know? Or are we going to do our thing, come back, and talk at 9?
This takes a lot of self-control, and that's why the plan is so important. Our brain wants to solve it right now, as Justus said. And it feels so important to solve it right now. And so that is the impulse we have to really resist. And that's why this process is so useful to set up in advance, because it's just not going to happen.
Right. And one of the things you reminded me of is the idea that one of the reasons we feel that pressure, in my mind, is the adrenaline that's been released when we flip our lid. Mm-hmm. And so we have this chemical, for lack of a better word, coursing through our body, giving us the energy to run away from the tiger or solve the problem. We're not going to come up with good solutions, but we can actually kind of fool that outdated program in our brain by working out or doing something physical. And so if you can do some push-ups, if you can lift some weights, if you can go for a walk, a fascinating study I read a while ago about depression, but I think it's true of a lot of these scenes, is that when we wind up in a patterned mood or interaction, our blood in our brain is actually going to start flowing in stale small circuits and become deoxygenated. So getting out of the house, getting physical if it's a rainy day, you know, doing some push-ups. It's the old school, I mean, I don't like the venting idea, but it's the old school hitting the pillow kind of a thing. Can you be physical so that your body flushes the adrenaline some? Mm-hmm. And hey, if you worked out and you come back and you're like, well, I finally worked out. I've been wanting to do that for 3 weeks.
Win-win. Yeah. Right, so getting space, telling your partner that you're getting some space because I don't want to be destructive. I mean, that's incredibly useful. Yeah. And then doing something physical. All incredibly useful things to do. But there's a million things that people do, and as Justus said, pick ones that work for you.
Right.
These are just a couple tried and true ones. But for sure, getting a space is absolutely critical in this equation.
Right. And so, again, it doesn't matter. There's an aspect of, you don't want this to be too complicated, but can you leave the judgment at the door? You know, I gave this, wonderful working out idea, and that's fun too, but maybe you want to eat ice cream. And maybe it's something that you do when you're upset. We're not talking about being perfect in this moment. We're talking about changing the channel and not solving the big problem.
Right.
If you feel better in your relationships, over time you're going to do better at whatever your goals are. You're going to feel more secure. You're going to feel more resilient and strong that you can do whatever it is you want to be doing.
Yeah, I love that line. I mean, can you just think of this? I want to make my partner or my kid feel worse so they do better, right? It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So, of course, when we feel better, we do better.
Yeah, and that's another Jane Nelson gem.
Yeah.
And
which is positive discipline.
just
Yeah.
feeling better to do better. And so that might be part of what you say. I could be better at writing better. But you could say something like, I want to feel better before I get back to you on that. I want to think about this with a clear head before I really tell you, because you're really important to me and I
Yeah.
don't want to screw this up.
And if you can't say that, that's fine too.
Yeah.
But I just want to feel better before I deal with this.
Yeah. And so many guys are coming in saying, I don't know what to say. Like there's a perfect answer.
Yeah.
And so even, dude, sometime if you just say, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. I don't know what to say. I just got to go.
And that could be your check-in, right?
Yeah.
And you'll practice this and you'll get better at it. But so what we're talking about is, how do you notice that you're moving up and getting more and more stressed? How can you notice that it's actually a lot of things that build up? And the last little bit's the straw that broke the camel's back. If you get a chance to tell the whole story after you feel better, you're going to notice, you're going to go, oh wow, it's really understandable. My dog died and my tractor blew up and my shotgun wouldn't fire.
Sounds like a country western song.
So,
yes.
Of course I'm going to be bummed and need a beer.
Yes.
But what we're talking about is leaving the judgment out. We're paying attention. We're becoming present to what happens. This is what happens to all of us. We are neurologically wired to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've stated before, it's how we've survived this long. It's outdated, and we want to start to recognize it, because what you do and say in this place, this is not a get out of jail free card. This isn't who you are. This is a part of you that is bent on survival. To me, your complexity, all of your parts related together in the present, that is some of the work of the prefrontal cortex. Mm-hmm. That's who we are.
Yeah, right. That's what unflipping your lid is all about. It's getting calm and re-engaging the prefrontal cortex. That's what makes us separate from the apes and all the other animals, to be honest.
And we're just coming back to our own self, which is a good person, and when we are stressed out, we're going to do the bad stuff. So start to see this in yourself, start to see this in your kids, try and see this in your partner. And just know that this relationship work is stuff that's not talked about, and it's stuff that takes a lot of practice, and it's going to feel weird. Sometimes it's going to get worse before it gets better. And still you're going in the right direction if you're coming back to noticing what's going on in my body, how am I feeling, what am I thinking. And you're just going to start to see patterns, and you're going to see what works, and you're going to see what doesn't work. And eventually you're going to have this little choice moment where it's like, hey, here I am again. Do I want to do the thing that I always do, or do I want to try the plan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you can get to a place, I tell a lot of the clients that I work with this, and I absolutely believe it's true. If you can just get to the place where you realize that you have this option to take a time out and you do it, that alone is going to make a big difference.
No doubt.
I think that's probably 85% of the equation.
Slowing it down.
Just slowing it down. That is huge. So, absolutely, create a plan. Try to figure out where you're at. Pay attention to those things that indicate where you're at. How much is your pop bottle being shaken? Because you'll know right when you're walking in the door if if you're already 7 shakes in, that it's not going to take much to have a Pepsi squirting out everywhere with Mentos in it.
Yeah, you're going to be looking at people like, just twist me.
Yeah, just twist my
me.
cap. Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, hopefully this stuff is helpful. As always, send us feedback, send us questions.
We love to hear your ideas because we make them into videos.
Yeah.
So please give us feedback.
All right, good night and good luck, I guess.
Yeah.